Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is an IFBB Pro bodybuilder. Today's guest is Bundy Cherenfant. Bundy, welcome to the podcast, my man.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
For sure. It's bright and early on a Saturday morning, man, and we're gonna have a great conversation. I'm really looking forward to chopping up with you. The first question, Bundy, that I have for you is, who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
Well, I'll just tell you my favorite bodybuilder of all time, I think, is Flex Wheeler. I just love the way he's shaped and his muscle bellies. I just think that he's the epitome of bodybuilding. Now, of course, Ronnie Coleman was the best of all time, in my opinion, but my favorite bodybuilder would definitely be Flex Wheeler.
Very cool. Now, outside of Flex, are there a couple other bodybuilders that you appreciate their physique, or you kind of looked up to maybe when you were younger, or not?
I mean, of course, when I was growing up, one of my favorite bodybuilders, because he was everything that embodied bodybuilding at the time, was Lee Haney. And I had an opportunity to meet him. So coupled with the fact that he had a wonderful physique, I used to like watching his videos and his personality. He's really a really nice guy. When I met him in person, I was like, wow. Sometimes you get that stigma of hearing that bodybuilders are, arrogant or just self-centered. But Mr. Haney was definitely a very nice person when you get to speak to him. He's very well-rounded. He's not one of those type of people. So yeah, Lee Haney I watched when I was growing up. I really appreciated his physique. Who else would I say? That's about it. I mean, I like bodybuilding as a sport, but if we're going to talk about my favorites, that's pretty much it there.
Very cool, man. Those are definitely two legends, to say the least. Now, on the second question, I kind of like to ask all of my guests, just to kickstart our conversation, Bundy, is at what age did you start lifting weights? And then why did you start lifting weights at that age?
I didn't start lifting weights until I got into high school. For the most part, I used to do push-ups and things like that, and I enjoyed that. But I was always told that you're not supposed to lift too early because it's gonna stunt your growth or whatever. I didn't know anything, so I just went with that. So I waited till I got into like high school. But I always knew that I was gonna lift weights as a child, because when I was younger, I was a little chubby, like the fat kid with the boobs. I used to wear like 3 shirts under my shirt so my boobs wouldn't show through the shirt. And, I used to always make sure that, my shirt was pulled out so people couldn't tell. Because I was chubby, but in a way that I could hide it. So I knew as soon as I could lift weights, I was just going to be lifting weights. And I waited till about high school when they said, all right, you old enough to start lifting weights. And I never left the gym since then.
Very cool. Now, did you start lifting weights because of a sport, or just for more the fun of it, or leisurely?
It was a combination of the two. Like I said, I always knew I wanted to lift weights and, have muscles and things like that. But when I got into high school, of course, being an athlete, I've been playing sports since I was a kid. I joined the football team and the basketball team and the track team. And in all those sports, we were always lifting weights. So they just kind of came together perfectly. So I would say both, because I wanted to excel in sports and I also wanted to look good as well.
Excellent. Yep, for sure. Now, I like to use that latter question, Bundy, just to kind of transition into talking about, your upbringing, your childhood. I'm really interested in just kind of learning where you grew up, paint that picture of childhood, what some of the experiences were that you had, positive, negative, talk about the sports and just the impact of sports, and then we'll stop kind of around that high school time, and then we'll transition from there.
Okay, so I'm originally from Miami, Florida. My parents were immigrants from Haiti. So when my parents got here, they didn't speak any English or anything like that. So they had to learn the language. And I grew up watching my parents work extremely hard to make sure that we were taken care of. And it was it was known that they were doing it for us and making sure that we would be okay. So their main priority was to make sure that they worked hard in order for us to be successful. So as a child, we always had chores, because with Haitian parents, it's always about discipline and, you know, making sure that you're taking care of things. And it's not until you get older you understand the reason for these type of things, like cleaning up after yourself. It wasn't until I got into college that I realized, yo, everybody doesn't clean up after themselves. Like not everybody was taught that way. So you start to realize those things as you get older. So we used to get punished a lot for not doing our chores. And, you know, foreign parents, there's no timeouts. There's no go take a walk. You got a spanking. So it was very intense at sometimes. But I will say my parents weren't the most strict parents out of the people in the neighborhood. Like Haitian parents can get really strict to where you can't even come off your doorstep. My mom and dad used to let us go out and play and ride our bikes and things like that. And they showed love the way that they knew how. Like we didn't get hugs and kisses and things like that, but they showed us love the way they know how. And like I said, when you get older, you start to understand that there's no blueprint to being a parent, you know? So they did the best that they could with their understanding. And I think we turned out pretty well. So as a child, I've always loved sports. That's why my kids, I try to encourage them to go outside and play, because when I was younger, I would go outside on a day when I didn't have school from the morning and would not come back inside until it was dark, because I love playing sports. Either it was basketball. At some point, we didn't have a basketball hoop, so we would just buy a $5 basketball and just be dribbling in front of each other, me and my brother and I. And if it was football, we would get kids from the neighborhood and we'll toss the football around. A lot of good connections were made over playing catch in the front yard. You know, some of my best friends, we used to come over and we used to just play catch. So I've always been in sports. Like ever since I've been in elementary school, I've been playing sports. And I fell in love with it. And then when I got older to get like in an organized group, I would get out of school and go straight to the basketball court and be playing until the lights turned off in the park. And one of the things I used to hate the most, and this is how I knew that it became an addiction for me, this sport thing. I used to buy my nice shoes, right? First day of school, you know how it is the first day of school. You had your shoes, you picked out your outfit, you're ready. I have my nice shoes on. I didn't bring extra shoes. Class is over, my friends are like, man, let's go play basketball. I said, no, I just got these nice shoes. I don't have any extra shoes, I'm not gonna play. It didn't take them but 2 more times to ask me for me to be out on the court with my brand new shoes. Now I got it because my parents weren't well off, so we got 2 shoes in the whole school year. When school started and during Christmas break, you got another pair. So now I've messed up my school shoes on the first day of school, and I have to walk around like that for the half of the year until I could get some new shoes. And I would say my brothers played a very big role in me growing up. So back to the shoes. So when we got a little older, my brother ended up being like 6'3". Right now I'm 6 foot. So he's way bigger than me. And we got smart. So I wore a size 11 and he wore a size 13. So we would buy a size 12 and a half. And because we weren't in the same school, we would switch shoes. So now I have 2 pairs of shoes. And in total, I have 4 pairs of shoes in a year. So me and my brother and I were really close like that. So that's how I know it was an addiction, because I was willing to mess up my shoes. But like always, my brother was there to save the day. Like my older brother, I definitely say played an intricate role in me growing up. He was always my friend, always had my back. You know, he was older than me, so he was my best friend from when I was born. He was the first person I saw. I remember waiting for him to come out of school and just waiting outside and just waiting for him. And I would see him coming and I would just take off running. And I had to be like 5, but that's one of the fondest memories for me, like waiting for my brother to come home. So yeah, definitely my brother played a big role in the earlier parts. And my younger brother helped me because I wanted to do better to be a role model for him. Because my little brother's about 8 years younger than me. So for one thing I regret was when I went off to college, his formative years, I really wasn't there. Like I talked to him on the phone, but I really couldn't be there how I really wanted to be. But he knows I love him, and you know, we're still close, we're still cool, but I just wish I was there at the time because I was off in school, you know, trying to make things happen. But yeah, so for the most part, that's how my life went up until high school. Just playing sports, hanging out with my brother, hanging out with my friends, you know, trying to stay out of trouble, because being from Miami, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff and a lot of potential for you to go the wrong way. And luckily I had my brother and his older friends that used to come over, and they would put me in the right direction. It wouldn't allow me to do any type of crazy things. Like, so yeah, to speak on that, when I went to high school prom, I always wanted a Tahoe. Loved the Tahoe. And the reason I fell in love with it at first, because there was a football player that went to the University of Miami that was friends with one of the guys from across the street. So he'd come over in this blue Tahoe with these, you know, I'm from Miami, so you have to have the big, crazy, ridiculous rims. And I used to sit outside and watch his car and like, I want one. So fast forward to prom night, that same guy knows that I love the Tahoe. He got one of his friends who was doing certain things to get money, you know what I'm saying? He allowed me to borrow his 2007 Tahoe. Mind you, it was 2007 when I graduated high school. That was like the best experience ever, because it was the Tahoe that I wanted with big rims. I was just showing up in prom like I was the man. So yeah, so long story short, those guys and my brother were very intricate in my growing up, because they made sure that I stayed in the right place, you know?
For sure. Now, I want to ask you a few things about your childhood from what you just shared, Bundy. Now, earlier you mentioned that you know, you were chubby up to a point, right? Did that come into play in terms of getting made fun of, or the way you thought about yourself? Or did you just kind of like, you know, were you kind of ignorant to all of that?
Well, of course, you know, because I knew it, there was some insecurities there. Like I said, I would wear the shirts and things like that. I didn't really get made fun of because I was kind of bigger than all of the kids. I hit my growth spurt kind of early. So guys would make fun, but they would know not to take it too far. So it didn't affect me like that. It was just my internal thoughts and me looking at myself in the mirror. But honestly, I always knew that when I could, I would get it together. It was going to be crazy. I said, as soon as I can lift weights, it's going to be trouble, because I'm going to kill it. So I would say, just, if any, it would just be real small, because I was always an athlete. Everybody was like, you know, friends, and it was like, oh, he plays basketball, he plays football, he does this. So everybody was pretty much cool.
Excellent. Now, I want to ask you a little bit more about your parents, because that's definitely unique that they came over from Haiti. If you don't mind sharing, Bundy, you know, why did they come over to the States? And, you know, what was kind of their experience, you know, being immigrants to the United States? What was their experience there in Miami?
So, of course, when you talk about Haiti, which is a beautiful place if you ever get to go, it's still in the Caribbean. So white sand beaches, of course, there's a lot of poverty there. There's a lot of poverty there. And if you understand the history and how even the United States have contributed to, you know, their current situation. So it was a lot of taking away of natural resources and things like that. So it's really a very poor place. So, you know, just like any foreign country, when they look at America, it just seems like everything is so easy, and, you know, it's the land of opportunity. So they came over to give themselves a better chance to be successful. And, oh, as far as their experience, like my dad came over, you know, my dad used to always tell us the story. He didn't speak English. He found little odd jobs. And then he met this lady on the bus. He met this lady on the bus, which eventually he started dating, and she taught him how to speak English. So that's how my dad speaks English. Now, my mother came over, and if you've ever been to Miami, it's densely populated with Hispanic people and a large group of Haitian people there too. So the thing about it is you tend to migrate where you are comfortable in. So when my parents came over, we started living in Little Haiti. There's a place called Little Haiti. And when you live in a place like that where it's densely populated with people who speak the same language, my mom really wasn't fluent in English at all, because she didn't have to be. everyone around her spoke Creole. And it was like, you got on the bus lady spoke Creole, and you got into the store. And if the lady you were speaking to didn't speak Creole, somebody in the back knew how to speak Creole. So my mother didn't even really, she was never really fluent in English, but my mother was definitely someone who I can say was just a strong woman, and she just figured things out. I can remember her taking us on the bus hand in hand, because she didn't drive, and we took like 3 buses to get to somewhere where she could figure something out to get us like a free meal or something like that. She just was always hustling and grinding. And my mom was a small lady, and she'll get on a ladder and paint the whole house because she didn't like the color. Like, that's the type of woman she was. And my dad was very hardworking. My dad would wake up like 5 o'clock in the morning, I remember, and he wouldn't come back until maybe 8 o'clock, because he used to be a cab driver. He was just doing what he had to do for us to succeed. So in all, being in Miami, it was a little bit easier for them because that language barrier wasn't so large for them at that place, but it was definitely a grind for them coming from another country and, you know, not having degrees and not really, you know, knowing people and having connections like that. So yeah, it was pretty hard for them, but they made it happen.
I love that, man. I love hearing stories like that, because it truly is the American dream, right? So I want to ask you about, so you grew up in Miami. So I graduated high school in 2006. So we're right around the same age, right? I'm from Iowa, like I'm a long ways away from Miami, right? But obviously I grew up in a small town. I played varsity sports, football. I played college football and things like that. So back in that time, the Miami Hurricanes, the football team was just, they were on a whole different level. So, and you mentioned that gentleman that lived across the street from you that played at the University of Miami. Talk about just the environment and just, you know, the intensity of Miami Hurricanes football at that time, because at that time they were just producing NFL first round draft picks like none other. And I was even a fan all the way over here in Iowa of the Hurricanes. So just talk about that and talk about how that really maybe tied into your passion for sports and football specifically.
Oh yeah, man. Coming from Miami, if you wasn't a Canes fan, nobody really messed with you. You would be maybe FSU, and it'll be a big argument every time. That was my dream, to play for University of Miami. Like I said, the guy across the street, UM, would come in his UM gear, and I would just be watching like, I want that. So while I was on the field playing, I was always thinking I could be a Cane. Like I need to work hard so I could be in there. And then when I went my junior year, they had like a little combine there. And I was like, oh my God, they got grass on the inside. Like, how'd you get grass on the inside? And then the grass outside, when we go outside, it wasn't grass. Mind you, my team, we played in the same stadium with 2 other teams. So we were sharing the field. By the time you got to play, the grass was all choppy. They had artificial turf on their practice field. It was like, this is heaven. Like, what? So I always wanted to be a Cane. I'm still a Canes fan now, even though they're not doing too well. But you know what? I'm true and blue. I'm always going to be a Canes fan. So yeah, always want. That was a lot of motivation for me, honestly. And one of my friends, one of my teammates, ended up going to UM that I played with. At the time, the coach was Larry Coker. So he walks, because he's recruiting my teammate, he walks through. I said, that's Larry Coker walking right in front of me. Wow. And it was like he was a celebrity, because, you know, at that time, and I think that this is my opportunity to voice my opinion. What has happened to the Canes is the daggone internet. Because now these kids want to go to school because they got nice clothes and they sponsored by this company or whatever. I'm like, back in the day, everybody from Miami wanted to be a Hurricane. So you know, Miami is a hub. Well, just Florida is a hub for just amazing athletes. So when you have a whole state that's just built with speed and all those things, and everybody wants to go to these 3 schools, you go to FSU, UF, or UM. Everybody wanted to go to UM in Miami. And Miami was producing all the athletes and 5 stars and all those things. everybody will go to UM. Now everybody's going. If you look at any team, I truly believe any major team in college football, they have at least one person from Florida, at least one. So we were producing athletes, and all those used to go to UM. So that's the problem. Y'all need to go back and start going back to UM and forget these other schools. Stay in your city, man. But yeah, at that time, Canes, you got Uncle Luke and all those guys walking around with the Cane gear. Yeah, Canes were hot stuff back then.
For sure, man. No, it was pretty awesome to see them dominating college football. So we're gonna start moving forward a little bit in our conversation now. I know you went to Morgan State University. I saw that on your Instagram. So talk about your college experience. Talk about if you played any sports, what degree did you get in? Talk about when you were in high school, as you were preparing to go to college, what were you kind of thinking about studying or what you wanted to be when you quote unquote grew up, and how did that unfold once you got to college?
So in high school wasn't very hard for me. I never studied. I never had to study from pre-K to like about senior year in high school. I never had to study. So in high school, there was something called the GPA. I never knew anything about it. You know, we just went to school. I wanted to get good grades because that's what my mom told me to do. So I had to get good grades. And so I would get good grades, but then nobody told me up until I got to maybe my sophomore year, close to junior year, they were saying something about GPA. You need a good GPA to get into college. And I was like, yeah, I gotta go to college, so let me work on my GPA. So then I started working extra hard from that point on. Still didn't study. I just paid attention in class a little bit harder, because before that, I was just like, you know, in there talking with my friends or whatever, but I could pick up on stuff pretty fast. So it really wasn't hard for me. So the most part of my high school year towards the middle to end was focused on bringing up my GPA so I could get to school. And then there's this SATs and the ACTs. And then while I was down there, there was something called the FCAT. So it was Florida standardized testing. So it became, I don't stress out about stuff. So it didn't become stressful, but it was something that I was concerned about. Like, yeah, okay, you got to make sure you pay attention so you could pass. So yeah, so I played sports, and I thought that was going to be my segue into getting into college. And I knew I had to have good grades as well. So I got some accolades. I did pretty well, and I just thought it was going to be easy. I got letters in the mail, things like that. I thought it was going to be a breeze. I said, by the time I get to become a senior, I'm going to be kicking back, just picking schools, probably throwing a dart or something, picking a school. That didn't happen. Nobody came for me. Nobody came for me. The only time where I actually came in contact with a coach at first was, I forgot the name of that coach, but he was the head coach for NC State. I'm like, okay, I could go to NC State. That's a big school. That's pretty cool. Not too far away. You know, you drive home or take a little plane or something like that. He ended up getting fired right before my senior year. So now I'm waving in the wind. Now the time where everybody goes into the library and make their little signing and all that, that has gone and passed. And I'm still nowhere, no school, nothing. And then my coach, Coach Hill, ended up coming to my mom's house, to the house, and offering me a scholarship from Morgan State University. My mom looked at this man like he was crazy. Now you got to understand the demeanor of a Haitian mom. Like, she's really tough. So she's looking at him up and down, because he's telling me this story later on. He was like, he didn't know what to say to my mom. Mind you, my mom isn't fluent in English. So now the communication barrier is there. And then she's just looking at him like he's crazy. But he walks in, mind you, Morgan State University is located in Baltimore, Maryland, right? I've heard of Baltimore. I've never seen any pictures. I didn't know anything at the time. So my frame of reference at this time, while this man is sitting here in my house, is his whole get up. He has a cowboy hat on and cowboy boots. I say, I'm going in the country somewhere. I don't even know where Baltimore is. I can't even pick Maryland out on the map. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going because he offered me a full scholarship. I gotta go. I'm looking at him, but long story short, he's from Virginia. My coach is from Virginia. So that's just how he dressed. it just so happened. So I went up blindly to Morgan State, didn't know anyone, decided that I wanted to go early, like in the summertime. So, you know, to get a feel of how it is, because tell the truth, I was nervous. I'm playing college football now. I don't know what to expect. So I got there early, trained with the guys and got to know the guys. So yeah, so when I got to school, truth be told, I was a holy roller, man. I really was like reading the Bible and stuff like that. And I can say I regret that now, because I didn't have a lot of fun in college. Like, my fun consisted of hanging out with some of my players when I could. Some of the guys, we'd goof around and play like, but that's it. I can't tell you a wild story of going out and drinking and none of that stuff. I used to go to class, go to practice, study, go to sleep. No fun. I always tell my friends this story. I drank twice while I was in college. My girlfriend at the time, her friend was having a party, so we went to DC. And not drink. I went to the club twice. We went to DC for her birthday party. The next time I went to the club was the year after that for their same birthday at the same club. I hated it. Didn't drink. I don't think I can have fun at the club without drinking, because there's people moving you around. The music is loud. People are talking to you. You can't hear them. You're bumping into people. People stepping on your shoes. So I hated it. I didn't have a good time at all. So my college years were pretty simple. Like, I really didn't even, I trained hard because, like, I had already fallen in love with lifting weights. So I'd go in there and work out and beg the coach if I could get like a special time where I could come in and lift on my own and stuff like that. Really didn't have a lot of fun, man. I really regret that too, man, because all my friends, like, oh yeah, you remember that night you jumped over the fence and you tore your pants and the aliens came and abducted you and you went through the burning building, and you remember that? And I'm over here like, I was in the room. Y'all could tell me the story and I'll live through you. Yeah, what happened? That's really pretty much what it was. So my college years were pretty cool, man. Just working hard, trying to get a degree, trying to make sure that I got everything done. So you asked me, what did I want to be while I was growing up? I had no idea when I got to college what I wanted to do. But luckily, those first 2 years, you know, you take your prerequisites, not the first two, maybe the first year, you take your prerequisites, they give you time to think and figure out what you want to do. So I actually went to school for physical therapy. So the degree is in physical education, but it's what's that word? Concentration in physical therapy. So I wanted to be a physical therapy at one point. But then when I did my practical portion, I realized these people aren't really trying to get better. And I've realized that I'm addicted to progress. I like to see something start and see it slowly change until it gets to its final place. Like, I'm addicted to that. So when I first started that, I just wanted to see the people get better. I'm pushing them, come on, you can do it. And they're like, man, listen, I'm trying to stretch this out so I can get this check. Please don't bother me. So I didn't even end up being, and then I heard it, when I learned how much schooling you had to go, I didn't want to be in school. I had been in school for all my life, and then college. I didn't want to go to school like that. So that's why I didn't take that path. But then afterwards, I did go to grad school and was pursuing a degree in teaching and a master's in the art of teaching. And I did that because I was like, hey, if anything fails, I'll just be a teacher. Now I have house money to play with. So that's why I chose teaching, because, you know, you always need a teacher, right?
For sure. Yeah. So I want to ask you, before we kind of wrap up the college education talk and really start focusing on bodybuilding, in regards to football in college, did you enjoy that experience? Did you, did you get to start? Talk about that just a little bit, and then talk about, wrapping up your education and then kind of what you started to do immediately after college for a job or career.
So as far as football, I loved it. I loved it. I loved the camaraderie. I loved the discipline of it as well, because on days when we didn't have practice, I was like, what do regular people do? Like, you guys just sit around? Like, what are you doing? So I love the structure of it. I really enjoyed the camaraderie. I've always been someone, if I'm going to compete, I plan on winning. I don't care who I'm playing. Like, we would play teams and, you know, they'd be like, oh, they're pretty good. I went to every game expecting to win. And even when we were playing like the best team in the world, I expected to shock the world. And we're going to beat them. We're going to find a way to beat them. So as far as sports is concerned, that's always been my mindset. That's my mindset now. I don't go into anything expecting less than to be the best and to win somehow, some way. I may not have been the best, but I'll figure it out to be able to get the win. You know what I'm saying? So as far as the sports are concerned in college football, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I didn't like practicing so much. Practicing was just constant heads clashing, and I don't mind it when we're playing. And we've been clashing heads since the summer. I don't want to practice with you anymore. Like, come on. I didn't like practicing, but game time, I enjoyed playing. I really enjoyed playing. So football was pretty cool. And you said it's my education. What was the second question?
Yeah, no, just once you kind of graduated and finished up your schooling, what did you do immediately after college in terms of job or career?
So after I graduated, soon after, I went back to grad school, and right after grad school, I became a correction officer because I had to provide. I had to, my girlfriend at the time, we were trying to figure things out, you know, hustling, and it was hard. Like, when I was in grad school, I was getting $425 bi-weekly. And I had to figure out how to make that stretch. Luckily, I used to get like a refund check from, schooling and stuff like that. I would make that last me. That's why I don't know how I'm spending so much money now, because I used to make that like $1,200 last me for like half a year. Don't ask me how. I used to figure it out. So, yeah.
What was it like being a correction officer? What was that experience like, Bundy?
Being a correction officer is intense, because though for the most part, not a lot of stuff happens, when things happen, it goes really bad. Like, there's always a potential that you may get hurt. There's always a potential that your partner may get hurt. So you're on constant alert. Now, of course, the problem that we always have is that you go there every day, you go there for a year, nothing happens, you start to get comfortable. And that's just human nature. You start to get comfortable, but there's always a reminder that, hey, you can die in here. We don't have guns inside. We don't have knives inside, but these guys have 24 hours a day to figure out their plan and what they're gonna do and how they're gonna do it. So, and they're constantly watching you. I'm pretty sure there's an inmate that can tell you how many locks I have, can see that I have my wisdom tooth removed. That's how closely they're watching you. So you already at a disadvantage. And when we talk about numbers, I've been in a jail where the number was 1 to 120. My job is to make sure that they don't hurt me or my coworkers or each other. Because God forbid somebody stabs somebody and I don't come and save the day, I get blamed for it. Like, I'm the one who's wrong because this man, or if the guy commits suicide, I'm the one who should have been watching him. I'm the one who should have made sure that he didn't do it. So it's high stress when you get in there. And I feel like I'm getting older because I got a gray hair popped up out of anywhere. I think it's stress related. I'm not even that old to be having gray hair. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, so it's definitely a high stress situation.
Now, and you're not old, man. We're about the same age. We're young. We got a lot of years ahead of us, God willing, right? So
that's right.
Let's start transitioning into bodybuilding. So you started lifting weights in high school. You kind of always had this mindset when you're younger. It's like, man, just wait till I get into the weight room. I start lifting weights. Like, you know, it's over. So let's just kind of skip over just lifting weights for sports and stuff, because we know that's just kind of part of sports, especially in college. But when did actual bodybuilding come to the forefront? And why don't you start talking about your first competition, kind of who introduced you to bodybuilding, and we'll just unpack that competition history from that first show.
Okay, so the transition of me working out to training is, of course, you do sports and there's a lot of explosive movement. So you don't target any area specifically. You do power cleans and you do upper body days and lower body days. And then we used to have explosive days. So that I went from that. And my coach at the time, Coach Bush, was a power lifter. Him and I became cool. You know, he was really one of those tough guys, you know what I'm saying? But we became cool and I started training with him. So I decided I wanted to be a power lifter because I was pretty strong. I was squatting probably like 500 pounds by the time I was a sophomore. By the time I was a sophomore. My bench wasn't crazy, but it was decent. It was in the threes or something like that. I don't remember what it was. And I never really deadlifted like that, but I could power clean almost 400 pounds. So I was pretty strong. So I said, I'm strong. I'm gonna get with this guy. He's gonna train me and we're gonna do powerlifting. So for like 2 years that when I was going to grad school, I was a GA, a graduate assistant. And I was under him. So we would train every day, you know, freaking, what's the music he used to listen to? Motley Crue or Led Zeppelin or one of those. I never knew what it was, but it was just like intense banging music, and we wrap our knees, we'll squat, you know, mouthpiece, just straight powerlifting stuff, top, dust flying, everything. When I stopped training under him, it was a friend of mine, my old teammate. It was just crazy how it happened. I was doing security, because then at that point, that was before I did corrections. I was just trying to make ends meet. And one of the old football players had put me on to doing security. So I was doing security. And one of the older guys said, I got a party. Why don't you go do that, get some extra money? Just look out. Look, I'm looking out for you. All right. So I do the party and I run into my old teammate, Gary Parks. And I'm talking to him, you know, we catching up or whatever. And I said, I do powerlifting now, but I'm always wanted to do bodybuilding. He said, what? If anybody knows Gary, you know, he's very animated. He said, what? You want to do bodybuilding? Don't worry about it, man. I got you. I got a gym. I'm going to take you there. There's a couple bodybuilders there. I'll let you meet them. So he takes me to the gym. We exchange numbers again, and he meets me at the gym, and I'm there. The first bodybuilder I meet is your stereotypical butthead. Big guy, tans all the time, so he's almost purple. Huge, very arrogant. I tried to talk to him, and he treated me like I was a peasant. I was like, hell no, I'm not training with this guy. I'd be done slapped him by the second day. So then he was all right, cool. So he introduced me to another guy, Kojo. Kojo was a bodybuilder. He was a real thick, big guy. I was like, okay. And then we started talking. And it was cool. He was like a friend. We was just chopping it up. And we would train together. And he had this other guy that was training. It became 3 of us. We used to train every day. I remember thinking, after the second day, we got to train hard like this every day? There's no break? Because I'm used to upper body days. So your shoulders never get too tired. Your chest never gets too tired. Your back doesn't get too tired because you have to train all those body parts within a certain period of time. Like we would go to the gym in school and you got to be out in an hour because you got to go to class or something like that. But when you're focusing on one muscle for an hour and a half to 2 hours, the way that they were training, I was like, I'm not a quitter, but I'm gonna just leave and just never come back. And they, you know, I'll do it on my own and I won't make it that hard because I was like, yo, it hurt every day. Back was hard, shoulders were hard, chest was hard. I said, when do we get a day off? They laugh at me. Day off? So I started training with him and we started talking about me doing a show. I was never thought I would be ready to do a show. I was like, no, I'll take my time. Let me get a little bigger. And then he's like, do a show. So he started getting me ready to do a show. Then the stars aligned, the moons came into place, and I met my coach and my friend, Rod Smith, in the gym. He's my coach now. We've been close ever since then. And he's like this freaking genius. There's never been a question that I've asked Rod that he didn't have an answer for me. As it pertains to life and bodybuilding. Like, so I look up to him. He's like family to me. To let it we are family because he's my daughter's godfather, put it like that. That's how close we've become. And he like, I love that guy, man, you know, because he's just been always there for me, you know, and then with the whole training thing, he's carried me on through there because I of course, I didn't know anything. So I did my first show. I met him while I was getting ready for the show. So he just took over and, you know, because he knew everything. So he took over and I started doing my first show. Started getting ready for my first show. And I remember I got on that stage. I thought I was hot, man. I got last place. I remember looking back at the pictures, like my legs were huge, but my little upper body was so small. At the time, I thought I'm cut up. I'd never seen my abs before. Mind you, I've been a chubby guy. Playing sports, I cut up a little bit. I mean, I leaned out a little bit, but never abs. I was just like, my stomach was flat, never abs. That was the first time I ever saw abs. And I remember going into the show, like, you know, they give you the count, like 4 weeks out, 3 weeks out. I'm looking at myself at about 3 weeks out, and I'm like, yo, I don't have any abs. I think that that's a prerequisite. You might have to have abs to do the show. It's like, man, don't worry about it. I said, I'm worried about it because everybody's gonna have abs, and I don't care if my stomach is flat, but you gotta have abs. My abs didn't start showing up until maybe a week and a half before the show. I don't know if it was because I had all this childhood fat on me. It took forever. And I was so stressed out at some point, like, yo, I gotta have abs. Like, I can't go up there with no abs. Like, there's nothing showing here. So yeah, that first show was pretty stressful. And I was pretty upset because I'm a competitor. And I didn't know how the whole bodybuilding show thing went, but halftime, you do your pre-judging. I didn't know what that was. I came in the morning, coach said, go up, do this, do this, do this, do that. The halftime, you know, you try to get yourself prepared for the evening show. My coach said, don't worry about it, man. Go have a beer and a burger. I said, what type of bodybuilding stuff is this, a beer and a burger? That's because he knew I was already getting my ass whooped, because now you know that where they place you, pretty much know where you're going to be. He's like, yeah, you're not going to win. So I'm like, a beer and a burger? So I go have a beer and a burger. And I'm like, I'm pumping up, getting ready for the afternoon show. He's like, it's okay, man. You good. But he always tells the story that in that day, he saw something in me. Like, he saw my structure and he saw that I had a lot of potential. So we've been rocking out ever since then. But that first show was very stressful. I didn't know that I was getting my butt whooped. The guy that was with us, he was training with us and he was getting ready. His name was Josh. He beat me. I'm like, I know I'm going to beat him. He beat me. It hasn't let me forget it till this day.
I love that, man. I love that. Now, so Rod kind of came into your life and began to coach you. Why don't you just talk about what year, Bundy, was that first competition for you?
My first competition, I think, was in 2014. Like, I prepped, and it was like the later in like November 2014.
Now, you earned your IFBB Pro card at Nationals in 2020. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So why don't you don't have to talk about every competition from that first one to the 2020 Nationals when you got your pro card, but maybe just talk about, you know, a couple of the highlights, and then talk about the Nationals and receiving your IFBB Pro card and kind of what that meant to you, please.
So after that first show, I started training again. That was like a little natural show. And, you know, I didn't even win. I got my butt whooped. But Rod, being Rod, said, your next show, you're going to be in the NPC. I said, what? The NPC? Do you see those guys? I'm not even ready for that. I'm just getting started. He said, your next show is going to be in the NPC. So I do my next show. It's, what was that show? I don't remember, but I did the show and I looked pretty good. We had trained and everything, but I was still bottom heavy. And I remember thinking, hey, I got a chance to win this. Like, I'm doing pretty well. I entered as a true novice, so I won that one. But I'm like, I'm in the open part portion. I think I got a chance. And then they line us up. And there's a guy standing in front of me. I think his name was Lutz, or I forgot his name. His waist was about this big, right? And I looked, and his back was hanging off the side, like, and I said, damn, I thought I was gonna win. They lined me right behind and I'm looking. Oh, I'm gonna go out there and pose my ass off, but damn. And then as soon as I get off the stage, my friends come over, he said, did you see RoboCop up there? He's probably gonna kick your ass. So that was my first NPC show. And I didn't win, but I won True Novice or whatever it was. And then after that, we just started hitting the ground rolling. Like we would do shows every year. There was a couple of shows where we thought we should have won, you know, of course, and you lost. And, you know, I've won a good amount of shows. I've done pretty well. And then Coach one year says, let's go to Pennsylvania and see the North Americas. Now, I'm not competing. We're just going over there to watch. So in the local area, you know, I was feeling pretty good. You know, I could win. And I go to the show. And I don't know what was going on that year, but everybody was freaking humongous. I was like, God damn, everybody's this big? And I'm looking at myself. I'm not ready. So I had to go back. And that was another awakening for me. Like, yo, you have to go back. You have to train a little harder. You have to do something because they're not playing at that level. So the year after that, Rod said, we're doing the North Americans. I said, okay, I've trained pretty hard. I think I might have a chance. I went up there and I think I got close to last place. Making so bad, they were still sending magazines at that time. So you could see the pictures and I'm scrolling. I said, 1 place, first place, second place, third place. I'm gonna see myself in this magazine. They stopped at 10. My name was with a little asterisk on the side, you know, with the guys who lost. So from then on in, we've been doing North Americas the whole year. We had some great battles with guys that are killing it now. So then I was getting ready one year and I was preparing for the Nationals. My first time doing the Nationals. I just did the North Americas. I was ready. I was still in shape. I had still been working out, training. Everything was good. Probably one of the best looks I did have ever. And my mom passed away. And I'm not a quitter. I signed up to do the show. I'm getting ready. I'm going to do it. We're setting up for the funeral. It's the exact same day of the show. Up until like 3 days before the funeral, I still was training, thinking that I might go to the funeral and then hop in. I didn't realize the whole intricacies of you got to be there early in the crack butt dawn of the morning. And then when they're dealing with a funeral, I'm the son, so I have to be there. So my coach was like, Rob was like, just, you know, your mom is important to you. Make sure you take care of that. Don't worry about the show. There'll be other shows. We'll make sure we take care of it. So that show was the first time I was getting ready for the Nationals. I did the Nationals the next time, and that's when Hunter Labrada was there. And we kind of knew he was going to win. Everybody pretty much knew he was going to win. But you know, me, I trained hard, so I was going to kick his ass. But I got like second, third call-outs in that show. So I had to avenge myself when I did it in 2020. So I ended up becoming a pro that year. And that's pretty much the whole breakdown of my competitions and the highlights and lowlights. I lost a lot, but I won too.
For sure, man. That's kind of a great little snapshot of life, right? Like we win, we lose. When you lose, are you gonna learn from those losses so that you can, you know, continue to move forward and continue to win? Now, I want to ask you, why don't you just talk about, I mean, we all know 2020 was a crazy year for everybody, but then to be able to weather the storm, so to speak, and, you know, earn your IFBB Pro card, talk about the feelings, talk about the emotions, talk about that moment when you knew that you were going to be now an IFBB Pro.
So training up to it, everything was good. I felt good. I felt positive. My energy was aligning with the goal. Everything was good. So when I got on the stage, you never really know what you look like. Like you see yourself backstage, but you never know, am I flexing right? You're on the thing. I've practiced, but now this is a whole different thing. There's no mirrors. You know, sometimes you practice without mirrors, but then you cheat over and you know you're doing it right. I didn't know what I look like. So now we're doing the things and we're posing, and Mr. Weinberg says, hey, whatever my number was, go off stage. Now, mind you, right before he says that, the two guys next to me are bumping me. So I take a step forward. When he says to go back, I'm thinking, oh my God, I just disqualified myself. I've been training all this time, all this hard work, and I just disqualified myself because I wanted to go above the bump. And I was like, oh my God. It wasn't until I got backstage that I even realized what that meant. Because anytime I would see that a judge would tell people to go off stage, it'd be like 3 of them. Number 1, number 2, number 3, turn around, get off the stage. So when he said one person, I was like, oh man, I came all the way over here embarrassing myself, training hard, and now I'm getting disqualified for doing something silly. And it wasn't until I got backstage and Mr. Tony, the expediter, he was like, man, that's crazy. I said, yeah, it's crazy. I came all the way over here and now I'm getting disqualified. He's like, no, it's a good thing. And that's when it started hitting me. I'm like, oh, that's a good thing. I'm winning. So yeah, it felt amazing because at that point I knew at least that I was going to get my pro card. But you know, I was never content. I wanted to get the overall. I'm still mad about that. I still want to win that because I got extra motivation because when you do the nationals, you go in there and there's a list of all the people who's won the nationals and it's like crazy names on there. And I was like, if I could put my name on that list, it'll be amazing. But I got my butt whooped in the overall and I didn't get it. But I got my pro card though, so it's cool. It's all right.
Sure. No, that's awesome. Now, at some point, Bundy, as you were competing in bodybuilding and going through these competitions within the NPC, did the pro card become kind of your obsessive focus, or were you just experiencing bodybuilding and competing, just wanting to be your best version of yourself and wanting to win, and whatever happened? What was your mindset, you know, through those last, you know, 5-6 years of competing in bodybuilding?
Winning. I want to win. And if the pro card is part of winning, then that's great. Of course, I wanted the pro card. If you're doing a bodybuilding, for a long time, people would ask me what I do as like a hobby, and I wouldn't say bodybuilding. I felt like if I wasn't a pro at it, I can't claim to be a bodybuilder. So winning, that was my motivation all the time, every time. And anything I do is winning. I don't care. I want to win. Like, so my mindset when I'm training is I want to win. So it became a focal point at some point because I would get so close to getting the pro card, and it was like I was 2nd place, 3rd place, and it would be like 4th place, then second. It would be like that, and like, okay, now you're not winning and you're not getting the pro card. Now let's get past this hurdle so we can keep going. And the thing about me, and I realized it, and I probably have something that I need to go to therapy for, is like after I won it, it was like, all right, cool. Now let's go do something else. Let's get better. Let's go right there. I didn't even. All the people to get, and I wish that I was that emotional. I wish I could get up there, shed some tears and cry and fall to my knees, do a pose and do something that I was just like, yes, we got it. Fist bump. Now let's go and let's start getting ready to deal with these guys at the pro level. You know what I'm saying? And that's how it's always been. I've been on AAU basketball teams and we won the championship, and it's like, all right, let's get to the next one. It's happy that quick and ready to go to the next second. So yeah, that's pretty much my mindset. Anytime that I'm doing anything like that, I want to win. So yes, I wanted the pro card, but I wanted to beat everybody. And my friends, they know, the ones that we train with, if we ever do a show against each other, I'm wanting to beat you. I don't care if we're on the same team. I don't care if we're friends. I don't care if you're my son. I want to beat you. We race, I'll kick my son's butt. I'm not letting you win. You better get fast and catch up. I want to win. So that's been my motivation from the beginning with everything.
Amen, man. I share a very similar mindset, and it's refreshing to hear somebody else that has that mindset, because we live in a very complacent society. And especially with the, I mean, I've been a school teacher in the public school system out in Colorado in the past, and you know, train youth and things like that here at my gym. And it's just we're living in a society that needs to relearn or be taught that it's okay to want to win and beat other people and, you know, stomp on other people. We don't have to do it in an arrogant way. We don't have to be necessarily mean about it, but there's nothing wrong with winning. It's absolutely okay, because honestly, once you kind of get out into the quote unquote real world, dude, people don't care about your GPA. They don't care if you graduated from Morgan State or the University of Miami, or it's like, no, what are you going to perform, and are you going to win for me? You know, are you going to win for this business? What have you? So I love that. Now, speaking of winning, let's talk about your pro debut. You made your pro debut this year at the Tampa Pro. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So why don't you talk about you and Rod after you received your IFBB Pro card? What were you guys planning on doing in terms of after getting that pro card for your pro debut? And then why don't you talk about Tampa Pro, what that experience was like, and kind of what the future is in terms of you competing in the IFBB Pro?
So Rod pretty much picks my shows and, you know, tells me, because for me, after I got the pro card, I want to take a year off. I want to get massive. I want to train hard. I want to be great. And that's how it was when I did my first show and everything. I always want to take time. And Rod is like, no, let's go. Let's go. What are you waiting for? Like, let's go. So he told me sometime this year, it wasn't even like the year before. He said, sometime this year, we're doing the Tampa Pro. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. Everybody's like, that's a big show. You want to start off with that? There's a little smaller ones. Rod is like, no, why? For what? Why are we doing little shows? We're going to go up there and test our metal. We're going to see if we can stack up to these guys. So then the list started coming out. And it was the first time that I wasn't nervous about who was there. I really wanted to compete against the best guy. So at one point, there was rumoring that Rolly was going to be there. I said, hell yeah. I want to stand next to him and see what the hell I look like. So then they was talking about Ian Belier and then Max Charles, you know, and Max Charles is Haitian. And I was like, oh yeah, I want to see Max. I want to talk to that guy. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I was excited about it. So yeah, the show went pretty well. I mean, I got 10th place. And, you know, every once in a while, you need a slap in the face to let you know, hey, train harder. You have not arrived. You need to get a little hard. So I got 10th place. And, you know, but I looked at those guys and, you know, I was like, we good. We're going to be all right. Those guys are good. I'm not going to take anything away from those guys. They're really good. But I know who I'm working with. I know Rod is old school training, heavy, hard. We're going to train hard. We're going to get things together. So my first show was pretty cool. The Tampa Pro was nicely put together. They gave us gifts. I got a backpack. I never got a backpack before. I was like, oh, this is how they treat the pros? Oh, snap. Got a nice little backpack, and it had like stuff inside. I got a mirror and things in there. I was like, okay. So it was pretty cool. It was just cool when you come in and you try to get the time when you get your number and thing, just looking around and seeing all the famous people. Like, hey, look, that's pretty cool. Hey, I'm bigger than that guy. He ain't that big. He's short, little. Oh, I'll kick your ass. You know? Just sizing people up like it was interesting. So I enjoyed the first show. And it was in my home state. So, you know, I was chilling. So I had a good time there. So you said that show. What did you say? The future? Yeah.
So you just competed once this year, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So then kind of what is you and Rod's mindset then moving forward in terms of competing?
So right now, I'm in my off season. We're training hard, and I don't know when the next show is. And Rod's probably gonna let me know one of these days out of the blue, just whatever. He's just gonna tell me, and then we're gonna start preparing for it. So, but right now, my main focus is just training hard, trying to get my meals in. I have a hard time eating food because I'm always moving. That's not an excuse. I should be eating my food. I got to do better than that, but. So right now, that's the main focus. I know we're going to do something next year because he said it, but I don't really know what show we're going to do. So right now, my main focus is putting more muscle on this frame because right now I'm at 305 pounds and I feel like I look like a Slim Jim. So I'm trying to push it up and get to like maybe I don't know, 320 something, so I could train at that heavy weight for us to come down. I don't know. I might have to be like a 280-pound bodybuilder on stage at some point, and we're working towards that. So it's gonna be good. So we're just training hard right now, figuring it out, making things happen. So as far as the future, the sky's the limit, I think. I think we got a lot of good stuff to work with. I think I'm in the right situation. I got coach with me, and yeah, it's gonna be good.
Absolutely. What are some of those areas you've mentioned that your legs are pretty a pretty dominant or strong point for you? What are some of the areas on your physique, Bundy, that you are focusing more so on than other parts as of right now?
Everything. I've always been self-conscious about my shoulders from that first show because I was bottom heavy. So we're focusing on my shoulders. A lot of the times my back hasn't come into where I want it to be, so I'm focusing on my back. And my chest, I just want to be stronger in the chest press so I can look good on Instagram. So I'm focusing on that too. So I've been getting stronger with my chest presses and dumbbell presses and barbell presses. So yeah, so focusing on that too. I mean, I might do some sit-ups every once in a while, you know, put my waist trainer on. So focusing on that too. So we're focusing on everything. I don't look at myself and think that this is great. I don't need to work on that. Everything needs to be improved, in my opinion. So we're focusing on everything and just making sure we're eating right, and so that everything can come out the way that it's supposed to. So yeah, I'm focusing on everything.
Excellent. So we're going to kind of start heading towards the finish line here, but I do want to ask you a few more things, Bundy. Now, in regards to stepping back on stage, are there a couple or more than a couple current IFBB pros that you want to step on stage with and eventually be? Is there like somebody that you have in the back of your mind, or are you always just focused on Bundy?
I'm focused on me, but I want to beat all of them. I want to beat all of them. I don't care who it is. Who is it? Big Ramy just won. I want to get on stage with Ramy and see how I look next to him. And all the chips below that, I want to beat them too. But for answer purposes, Ramy. Get on stage, see how we stack up, and that's what I want. I want to compete against him. I want to kick his ass.
It's gonna have to be at the Olympia then, my man. That'll be pretty awesome.
And if that's what I have to do, then I guess that's the only route to Ramy. I got to get there.
That's right. I love it, man. I love that mindset. Talk about you've mentioned kind of just in passing that you have kids. Talk about fatherhood. Talk about what it means to you to be able to raise kids and have that influence in your life.
Oh, I love my kids. I love being a dad. It's a beautiful thing. Like, my kids are great kids. They're not bad, but they're kids. So, you have to correct them every once in a while, but they're wonderful kids. My son is amazing. He's a smart kid. He's real artistic. He draws. My daughter has all the personality in the world, just sassy, and she's at the point right now where she's just trying to manipulate me all the time. And she's realized that she has some power with the little pouty lips and all that stuff and all that. So yeah, my kids are amazing. I love my kids. Now that they're old enough where they can talk, sometimes I just sit in the car and listen to them have a conversation. Because I remember when he couldn't speak. My son's name is Noah. My daughter's name is Robin. I remember when Noah couldn't speak. And I remember when Robin couldn't speak. Now they're in the back seat and I'm driving. They're having a whole conversation. And I'm just listening. I jump in every once in a while. And I'm like, yo, my kids are back there having a conversation. And they are hilarious. They're hilarious. My son said, his mother was on the phone. He said, did you pick up the kids? And I said, no, but he was in the car. He said, after I hung up with her, he said, she said kids with the S because there was more than one, right, Dad? I said, yes, you're right. When there's the S, it's plural. And when it's one, it's singular. He was like, plural, okay. He was like, Dad? And I said, yeah. Can we go to the store and can you buy me some plural toys? I said, what do you mean, plural? Because I want more than one. I said, oh my, I started laughing. I was dying. So my kids are hilarious. I love being around them. I love watching them grow. Like I told you, seeing from where they came from and seeing them grow, and it's just happening right before my eyes. Like, I love being a dad. My kids bring me joy. Like, on a day when I'm not happy, I just call them and talk to them, or if they're with me, we'll just sit around and just lay around. And it's like, in the morning when they wake up, not too many words said. If I'm laying down, they'll come lay next to me and we'll watch TV. Nobody will say anything until probably like 15 minutes into the show, like, Daddy, I'm hungry, or something like that. And those moments are just everything to me, man. I love it. And I know in a couple of years, they're not going to hang out with their dad like that anymore. So I'm cherishing every second of it, you know?
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. If you could just share with some of the younger listeners that maybe are just getting into bodybuilding, or they're maybe getting ready to compete in their first competition, what words of wisdom, what words of insight, Bundy, could you share with some of those younger athletes within bodybuilding?
I would say, when you're competing and you're getting prepared for a show and that's your mindset, prepare to win. Prepare to be victorious. Don't prepare to just, oh, I'm going to go out there, you know, give it a good try and be third place. No, go there to win. And in the event that you do not win, reassess everything. Understand that, okay, well, this needs to be fixed. It's not over because you lost. It's just a opportunity for you to understand and to grow and to understand yourself better. Like, when you lose, it's never really a loss unless you make it a loss. It could be a positive thing. Like, if I would have won that show, I would have never worked extra hard on my back. I would have never worked extra hard on my shoulders, because I would have thought that I arrived. It wasn't your time to win. And the reason why it wasn't your time to win is because something needed to be fixed. So I would say, just train to win and keep a positive mindset. If you ever hear me talk, it's all about your mindset and your energy that you're letting off into the world. And as long as you're being positive and you're looking at things, like, even when somebody says something negative to you, like, your legs aren't big enough. Okay, you're right. And I'm going to go train my ass off and they're going to be big. And when you see me again, acknowledge the fact that my legs are bigger. And I'm taking your criticism as something that's going to motivate me. So you take that energy that's perceived as negative and you take it, you flip it around into something positive. Don't get so sensitive about when people talk about you. Like, people gonna talk about you whether you tall, short, fat, small, skinny. I got made fun of for being, I get made fun of having muscles. Like, I go to work and they make fun of me all day long. Say, hey man, you gonna pick things up, you're gonna put them down? I said, come on, man, I just got here. You know what I'm saying? So don't worry about the criticism. People are gonna make fun of you no matter what. Just take it, receive it, and just use it in your benefit. So if I had advice, I would say train to win and keep a positive mindset, and don't let what people take affect who you are or what you do. Just, if it is going to affect what you do, make it something that's going to be motivating and positive. So yeah, that would be my suggestion for anybody who's trying to bodybuild, young, old, or whatever.
Perfect, man. Okay, we're going to wrap it up. Before I kind of give you the last word and give you the opportunity to share, you know, any sponsors or shout outs or anything like that. I saw on your Instagram, you actually just posted it this morning, but Freestyle Friday. I would like to give you the opportunity, the platform right now, Bundy, just to hit a little freestyle for myself and all the Behind the Muscle podcast listeners.
Shoot, put me on the spot. I don't even have any music.
Come on, man. You just got to do it. You can do it. I know you can.
All right. We're talking on the podcast. I never been last. If you ever come around me, then you'll see I'm fast. I'm fast at this. I'm fast at that. I lift big weights so my body won't lack. I train my chest and I chain my back. Everybody's going to say his body's built like a Mack truck. What's up? I don't give a what. Or 1, 2, I just came to the gym to do what I have to do. Earpods in my ear, music blasting. I'm trying to build these muscles so they can last when I get on the stage, and I'm gonna be great. People are gonna write tweets and talk about how much they hate my physique, but it's not about them, it's about me. I'm going to the Olympia to face off with Big Ramy.
Love it, man. Love it. That's good stuff. When I saw you post that early this morning, I was like, to try to pull that out Freestyle Friday with Bundy, man. So cool, man. Hey, you know what? I definitely can tell you've got an awesome personality, man. You've got a lot of positivity to give the world. I want to thank you for coming on to Behind the Muscle podcast and sharing your story, chopping it up for a little over an hour now on a Saturday morning. Bundy, if there are any final words that you want to leave with the listeners, please do so right now. If you have any shout outs or any sponsors or anybody that you want to talk about as well, the floor is yours, my man.
Okay, I would like to share my love and appreciation for my team, Alpha Zulu. Definitely gets me through the hard days. There's a whole bunch of personalities in there, and they make sure that even when I don't want to go, they make sure that I go, and they make sure that I'm on point. And, I show up late all the time, and, they still accommodate me and let me train with them. You know what I'm saying? So big shout outs to the team Alpha Zulu. Shout out to NBRKS. This is the clothing line that's going to be amazing. And you need to jump on it right now before it blows up and then you lose your chance to have one of the first part of these apparel. Yeah, that's pretty much it, man. My friends, everybody who support me, man, I appreciate all of them because I understand that it takes a village sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've had people run out and buy me a meal because I didn't have anything. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I appreciate it, man. And I appreciate you for having me on here. And when you first hit me up, I was like, me? What interview me for? Like, who the heck am I? I had to look at it, is this am I being punked? Somebody's going to put me on a podcast and try to make me say some crazy stuff. I'm not with it, but then, we communicated, and I really appreciate you for choosing me for this opportunity as well.
You're very welcome, Bundy. And my heart, man, is, to get the IFBB pros on, but then there's also, NPC athletes. And my heart is just to give people within the bodybuilding community that platform to share their story, man. So once again, you're welcome. And once again, thank you very much. Okay, Bundy?
All right.
Cool. And listeners, those of you watching on YouTube, once again, I just want to say thank you to you, because if it wasn't for you, the podcast wouldn't exist. The podcast is it's growing. The Instagram is growing. I just want to thank all of you for supporting, for commenting, for subscribing, for continuing to come back and listen and view Behind the Muscle podcast. So 2 favors for all of you listeners or YouTubers. I would just ask 2 favors. Make sure, if you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button on YouTube. That's important because I release all of these episodes first on YouTube. And then the second favor I would ask of all of you is take this episode of Bundys and share it on all of your social media platforms. Make sure you tag Bundy. Make sure you tag Behind the Muscle so that we know you listened to this episode specifically and you found great value in some part of Bundy's story. He dropped a lot of wisdom. He was very open in sharing his story. And why don't you guys just make sure you tag us as you share this on your social media platforms. If you are on YouTube, why don't you go into the comment section and leave your favorite part of Bundy's story, or maybe one takeaway from what Bundy shared today. I love getting the comments on YouTube. I love being able to interact with you guys. It's definitely a fun part of doing the podcast. And finally, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.